I pastored a church that started Emmett Till's mother and grandmother's house in 1926. This is our 85th year. And Mose Wright is my grandfather, and Emmett Till's great-grandfather. I'm just going to give you a little tidbits because we're going to have question and answer. We don't want to go over too much, but I live in Summit, Argo, Illinois. In 1947, I was part of the Great Migration. We moved to Illinois because of the economy, and we moved to Summit, Argo, Illinois, next door to Emmett Till. Both homes are now torn down, and we're trying to purchase the lot where Emmett's house was so we can make it a special monument there for him. Last year we built a community center, and we named it the Emmett Till Memorial Center. Also, 76th Avenue off of 63rd Street is named Emmett Till Avenue. So that's what's happening in Summit, in the 64th Street, 7400 block. In 1955, my grandfather, Mose Wright, came to Chicago for a funeral, and I had not been home since 1947, and my uncles, I have 3 uncles that are younger than I am. My grandfather had a lot of children, and the age span, the oldest one just died this last year at 97, and the youngest one is 60-something, so he had a big span there. And so I have about 3 uncles that's younger than I am, so I was going to see them. And Emmett, being a couple of years younger than I am, his mother, when she went places, she always took me along with Emmett. So he kind of looked up to me, and he found out that I was going to go to Mississippi, and he wanted to go also. Of course, no one wanted Emmett to go, and because of his fun-loving, prankster-type ways, and he's the center of everything and just loved jokes. He would pay people to pay him jokes. They just didn't want him to go because they knew he could be in trouble in Mississippi. And you have to have lived there during that time to understand. I speak at a lot of schools, and they just cannot fathom what happened, did happen, and the way things were, but it happened. So why do we talk about history? And it's an uncomfortable subject. I go from school to school. Next week I'll be in Atlanta at 3 schools, and it's always uncomfortable, so I let them know that we're not here to stir up any animosity or ill will. But we must talk about history, because if you don't talk about history, you're subject to repeat it. Not only history shows where you were, where you are, and where you need to go. So we got to talk about it. We got to talk about history. So they finally decided to let Emmett go, and we were only there 3 days in Mississippi. We go to the store, and the incident happened. I won't go into a lot of details because maybe we can ask a question later. But anyway, he did whistle, and his mother would not like to think that he whistled, but that's a mother's perspective, and I could understand that. But he whistled, having fun, trying to make us laugh, not knowing, and we didn't think it would come to what it came to at all. He whistled on a Wednesday, and they took him on a Saturday, and I don't know, Sunday morning, they probably killed him during the same time. But let me talk about the impact that it had on the family. And Mrs. Till, one of the gentlemen, talked about what it did for her. We come from a very religious background. Bishop Ford was our bishop. We're from the Church of God in Christ. And there's a common saying in the church: all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. So with that being embedded in us, whatever happened to you, you're encouraged to take that negative and turned it into a positive. Emmett Till's grandmother, Mamie's mother, Alma, she was what we call the Fonz. She could come into a room and have all of us doing something very softly and gentle, and she's sitting down. So that's the kind of person she was. She started the Emmett Till Foundation. Mamie started it, organized the Emmett Till Players, and she went back to college. This incident turned her around. She went back to college. She became a teacher, and she got married and settled down and did a lot of great things, always taking the negative and making it a positive. So she influenced us. Even though this tragic thing happened, she influenced us to be positive. Do something good. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it make you act crazy or whatever. So with that, it impacted me in this way that when I was lying there and I could hear them talking at the door. Having been away from Mississippi, I looked at Mississippi differently from the way that my uncles that lived there. They didn't think anything would happen like this in Mississippi. They had a different perspective than I had. Why? Because when you're going south, they always told you about all the stories, people killed and beaten, mistreated. And ETill was not the first one to experience things of this nature. Told you about people who had been thrown into the river and never saw them again. So the moment I got there, this is very much in my mind. I go to the store, I'm thinking about these things. My uncles that lived there, they didn't think about that. They think nothing would happen. So the morning they came to the house, I could hear them talking, and fear just gripped me, and I said, my goodness, I'm getting ready to die, because these people kill you. And I knew that he had whistled, and he begged us not to tell it, so I'm just saying, well, I'm getting ready to die. It's one thing about when you're getting ready to die, you think about all the bad things you ever done. I don't know why. It's time to, your mind is on God. I want to live, and I'm 16 years old, and I could hear them coming my way, and it's like a dark as 1,000 midnights. You can't see your hand in front of your face, and I'm shaking, and in walk these guys, and you're waiting to be shot. I said, God, if you just let me live, I'm going to do right. I was watching the World War II film, and the young man, the ship had crashed, been blown up, and he said he was laying in the water, and there's a shark coming right for him. And he said, God, if you just let me live, I'm going to treat my brother right. I'm going to marry a young lady, and I'm going to treat her right. He said the shark went the other way, and he saw his friend's leg go into the air. But there's something about death or near-death experience. It does something to you automatically. So what happened to me after that, these promises that I made God would always come back. And about 6 years later, I went into the church and dedicated my life and became a minister and a pastor of the church that I now pastor, which I went to 64 years ago. So Mrs. Till, going back to Emmett, she was very hurt because nothing was done. And what really hurt her is that they said that was not her son's body. That water-soaked, battered body was not her son. And then they had the audacity to say that he's in Detroit with your father. And it really, really hurt her. And she, like I said, she became positive, and through the years, she would talk to me about it, and through the years, she would just hope something went. We needed closure, and I just want to thank these brothers for what they've done. It helped bring even more closure to me, helped me to understand better. It's something about life when things like this happen. I don't want to see anybody prosecuted. I don't want to see anybody hurt. We just want to know the truth, and I just thank Dale and those that worked on this case. Back then, they didn't have DNA. So they won the case based on the fact that it's not Emmett's body. And when they come to exhumation, some of the family was a little reluctant. If you remember, there's a controversy in the news. And I say, why? He said, well, maybe it's not him. So, man, we know that's Emmett. We call him Bobo. We know that's Bobo. But Darryl told us that if they needed to, since they got the case, they're going to do it anyway. So that's where we were. And I want to just say that we thank the Academy here, the Cultural Center, for what you're doing. And I think this is good, and it will help educate people concerning forensic. And I watch forensic all the time. I'm just fascinated by it. And I just want to let you know that we appreciate it. So thank you very much.
This has been a remarkable presentation. One point that went home with me is several of our speakers commented how the forensic techniques that we employed in this investigation were not really available at the time of the event. This time around, we were able to learn so much more about what really happened because of the progress that the science had made, not just the society. And this week, we have the American Academy of Forensic Science assembled here at the Hyatt nearby. We have hundreds of the top forensic scientists in the world assembled, discussing research, discussing cases, trying to make that science even better, to learn more about the truth in the future. On behalf of the Academy, I'd like to thank the Cultural Center for hosting this event. I'd like to thank all of you for your attention and thoughtful questions and comments. And I'd like to thank our panel for the effort they put into this and the wonderful job they did.